go ahead and get started, everybody. So, welcome. Appreciate you all coming out. It means a lot to me personally. We're going to try to give you the same we give anybody. If it was 100 people here, but just one person get the same thing. So we're going to try to share what's in the book, what I experienced, and how we can relate to leadership. And with that, I'll let the moderator go ahead and kick it off.
Okay, moderator. I am Crystal Brown. I am the moderator for today. I've met, I think, everybody here. I see some familiar faces, some new faces that I've met, and we've talked about some new sheets, right? And some science and social studies and some health care, and some surprises come along the way. And some people who have traveled afar, and we appreciate you all being here. Of course, we're all here to talk about Ronnie's book that he has done so well job on, is When Phoenix Rise. And just let's go ahead and get started, and let's talk about our author here, Ronnie. I'm going to give you his bio, if you don't mind. Ronnie L. Rice hails from the Chicagoland area, relocated to the Carolinas in 1998. In 2002, after separating from Abbott Labs of Abbott Park, Illinois, Ronnie decided it was time to embark on his dream of starting his own consulting company. He named it R Square Enterprises, LLC. The company provides educational services in the areas of learning enrichment coaching, motivational speaking, and leadership training. Ronnie's professional background includes computer support, training and development, sales and marketing, and human resources. Ronnie earned a Master of Arts degree from Webster University's George Herbert Walker School of Business and Technology, and received his Bachelor's of Science degree from Southern Illinois University in Workforce Education and Development, ATM Bronze certification level from the prestigious Toastmasters International, as well as received recognition for his numerous achievement awards. He has been featured in the Greenville News, the Greenville Journal, Spartanburg Herald Journal, Chicago Sun-Times, the Waukegan News Sun, the Hampton County Guardian newspaper, Your Carolina local television show, and radio for his business ventures. Although he confesses he is inspired by helping motivate wide, diverse audiences achieve their career and personal life goals, he admits that he is most proud of the feedback he receives from individuals who share how he has helped them make a positive difference in their lives or careers. Ronnie believes the reasons why most people fall short of achieving the success they want out of life is due to a lack of one or a combination of the following: measurable goals, clear direction, discipline, structure, self-confidence, or poor choices. Once the intangibles are addressed and satisfied, success is soon to follow. Mr. Rice resides in the upstate of South Carolina with his wife, along with spending time with his grandchildren and their grandchildren. He enjoys the benefits and pleasures that come along with being an empty nester. Ronnie's philosophy to America's future leaders is make footsteps, don't follow them. So, let me tell you a little bit about how I know Ronnie. I've been knowing Ronnie for about 15 years. Personal friend of mine, dear friend of mine, his wife, and I met him through his wife about 15 years ago, and I was so impressed with their family structure that I asked them to be my children's godparents. So that speaks to who I feel they are to me. Okay, and I thank him for involving me in this being a small part of what he is doing in his life in the present moment with his book. We both enjoy lifelong learning. We have a love for lifelong learning. We are always striving to continuously improve ourselves personally and professionally. And we also both love books. So I tell Ronnie all the time, if they can't find me in their house, I'm somewhere in the corner with the space heater, a blanket, and one of his books that he considers his crown jewels. To me, when I see Ronnie, I see someone who is inspirational, he's motivational, and I think you all know this, he loves people. He's an intelligent person, he has insight, and he's a very supportive friend. And I believe by your presence being here today, you all know that already. So, Ronnie, if we can go ahead and talk about the book, When Phoenix Rise, if you can tell me why would you write a book on leadership? Life lessons for effective leadership. Just a moment. I did a search on Amazon, a book search on leadership. Came back over 80,000 results for books on leadership. So why, Ronnie? Why another book on leadership?
It's a good question. I felt that it was time. I felt that based on what I've gone through, experience in my life, growing up and also in corporate America, and things how they change continually, to stay abreast of change, you have to continue to reinvent yourself. And I felt that at this stage in my life, I had something to give back to other people, particularly young people who are coming up. And I want to show that you don't have to be at the top, be the CEO or the vice president, CFO, in order to make a difference in someone else's life or their career. And I think that's what really inspired me, to be able to share how I've been able to influence people. And I've not been at the top, but I've been able to move mountains, so to speak, in many areas. And I want to share that with other people. And that's what kind of got me going on leadership. My background also, I have a degree in management and leadership, and that gave me more fuel for it. I felt like I reach back and share what effective leadership really is. The book definition is the ability to influence people. That's what the book definition is about, what leadership is really about. And I want to share that and put out there where people can take advantage of it.
Okay. So tell me, what do you think you can get out of this book?
Oh my God. What I'd like to get out of the book is I would like for people to look at what I've gone through in their own life and make a difference. I would like for the book to be, now that we live in a market, a global marketplace, it'd be great to have the book around the world. I'm proud to say I was recently selected to have my book included in libraries in this region, and I'm very proud of that. But I want people to get a lot out of the book itself and be inspired by it, be motivated by it, to see that, oh, I can do this. I can try this. And it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake and learn from it. It's okay to fail and not have your life just crumble. It's okay to get back up. I want to show that. So I want people to really find a way to use the book, study the Q&A at the end of every chapter, little study groups, or have conversation with people to find meaning, to make it useful. So that's the reason I want to, I guess, that's why I expect to get out of the book.
Okay. In writing this book, what would you say was your biggest challenge? And what area did you find most rewarding?
The biggest challenge was, surprisingly, when I got done with every chapter, is trying to develop a question that matched the chapter. I wrote the book by myself. I had nobody around, so I'd pretend everything I was writing as if I was being interviewed by someone. I had to imagine that person there. What would the person ask me? And how would I respond? And trying to develop the questions and not be redundant to the point where it made sense with the chapter. That was probably the hardest. Out of all that writing, all those hours of writing at the library, I spent many, many weekends at the library, over a year writing a book. The hardest thing for me was trying to develop those little italicized questions at the end of every chapter. The most rewarding thing was once I saw the cover. I had a vision. I wanted to see the phoenix bird rising and come out of urban America, which you see here. And they did a better job than what I can envision. And I was blown away. When I saw the cover, I just, wow, this is truly professional. And I wanted the cover to be eye-catching. I had no idea. Of course, you don't know until someone sees it, when they look at the cover and say, I like the cover. Something different about this. The colors, the design, what does it mean? And that's good, because people asking questions, they want to know, what is a phoenix? What does this urban America stuff at the bottom in the city mean? So that's the context of what it's all about, is that a person who goes down and make bad choices or have things happen in life, adversity, and you build yourself back up. As you all know about the phoenix itself, is a bird that lived about 500-600 years ago, and it consumed itself in fire. It was burned up, and it came up out the ashes, renewed, a new bird. And we do that, we reinvent ourselves. So I look at coming out of urban America, where I grew up, and it's a lot in the book, it's detailed in the book, what I experienced, what I went through, what I survived, choices I made. Some were good, some were not the best, but I learned from them, and I rose up out of that. And how did I get out of it is the main question, versus a lot of people in my neighborhood did not. What made me different? And that's what I want to share. And that picture tells a lot. In that.
It does. I think they did a great job capturing what you've expressed here. So it's safe to say they exceeded your expectations.
They did, absolutely.
You've been a fabulous job,
Yep.
fabulous job.
Yep.
As I was reading the book, I noticed quite a few references, some directly and some indirectly references to the Bible, some concepts, some scripture, and particularly there was one about an anthill experience where apparently you gave them a little bit of an upset. You can talk to them about that. And it speaks about ants in Proverbs and how you watch an ant and be wise like the ant and consider their ways, and go out and do what you need to do, you know. And so how would you identify with those ants, rebuilding those lives? A little bit from the book, he disrupted an anthill, and you know how that goes. It goes downhill south really quickly, right? But the ants start rebuilding their lives. So I wanted to know, how did he identify with those ants rebuilding after their devastation and not giving up?
Yeah, that was an interesting day. I was bored. I was bored, and I put a firecracker in the mouth of an anthill. And I, of course, lit the firecracker and exploded the anthill. And many ants were destroyed. I mean, the carnage it caused was awful. So I left to go play, and I came back, and I saw the destruction. But what I really saw was the ants really try to accumulate themselves, and the ones who were survived were pulling the dead ones back in. And they were very resilient. And I looked at that in awe. And that helped me later on in life, is not to give up, because things happen in our lives as well, that may destroy us to a certain degree, but it's all about bouncing back. I didn't give up. Mm-hmm. And so when I lost my sister, it helped me during that time of, again, when you lose someone, like the ants did that day, and what do? Do you just give up? Because all of us as we live, we're going to lose people, right? But do we give in? Do we give up? And it made me stronger. I looked back at that and thought about those ants, although very small, very minor in detail, but meant a lot to me personally. Right. And I saw the strength in the ants, and that's what made me strong, helped me that day get through that really tough time.
And as I read the book, I noticed many obstacles in your way along the path. I guess the life lessons that you learned or experienced. And again, like you said, you didn't give up. And as I was reading the book, I kept having these words pop up in my head, you know, and they all started with E. So I started nicknaming the book of E. And so we're going to take this journey through the book of E. It's my nickname for the book. There's a couple of chapters may have related to exposure, experiences, expectations, effectiveness, epiphanies, excelling, environment, education. We're going to take a journey through some of these E's, and I've noticed that he tapped into his inner purpose through all of those. You know, a combination of these words is what helped mold him into the person that we see in front of us. So I said, through the experiences, through the exposure, the environment, the education, those special epiphany moments, he was able to excel and evolve into an effective leader today. So I want to take it one by one. Let's start off with environment. Overcoming your environment versus being a product of your environment. Which one are you? And, you know, you have a dual parent home in some cases, and you have a supportive dad in the home, which Ronnie had a dad, you know, in the home. But how does this play into you becoming an emerging leader?
The environment.
Emerging into a leader, yes, your environment.
The environment was tough. We lived in an area that was really probably yet urban, very challenging in terms of the culture at the time. We moved back during the time of black exploitation films, they call it. Superfly, Coffee, the Mac, and all that lifestyle, drug dealing and pimping. Well, right in front of our house, we could see that. Literally, I could see it. And so when I go outside, the store was maybe about 40 feet away, that far. And oftentimes I'd go to the store and guys hang on the corner and they would shoot dice. And you don't want to walk through someone's dice game. It could cost you. So you have to go around it. And in that environment, there was a pool hall across the street. It was a kitty corner. There was a pool hall, we call it the Puerto Rican store. Then there was a tavern and another, I guess, a building right there. But that's where everybody sort of hung out. And a lot of activity during the night, all day during the night. You hear things, hear sounds, and I could see a lot. And so I had a bird's eye view, watching a lot of it. But one thing I realized that I didn't want to be a part of any of that. So I walk around it. I like to play basketball. My outlet was basketball. And my friends live almost about a mile away. I'll walk down there, run down there actually to go play basketball. So I learned to avoid a lot of those things in my environment because I didn't want to be part of it. I saw a lot of people that lifestyle didn't last very long. I mean, many of them end up incarcerated, end up walking around like we call them zombies because they lost their mind from doing drugs, or they, of course, had premature death. It was just so common, it was just sad. And I knew that was not what I wanted in my life. So the environment played a big role because it showed me that I had a choice to make. I could be part of it or not be part of it. And I chose not to be part of it. Although it's easy, it seemed like it was easy, and hustling, make money, but I realized, these things always end badly, so I don't want to be part of that environment.
You chose to overcome your environment.
I did.
Versus being a product of your environment, which is illustrated, I think, brilliantly through the title and through the cover of the book, where he has come out of that environment, but he's not a part of that environment. He's rose above what the hand that has been dealt to him. I commend you on that. Not everyone is able to do that. For example, there was a character in the book by the name of Timur, who grew up in similar environment as you did. You know, however, your lives took totally two different paths. What made you different from Timur? I know you explained to me what you seen and everything, but what was it about Timur that he seen in you where you were able to come out of the environment and chose a different path? What did he see?
For those who get the book, you'll see, or if you got the book, you'll realize that Timur is my first cousin, and we were the same age, the same grade, and grew up together for a while, but then they moved when we were about 6 years of age. And Timur's life changed a lot. You know, we were very close, but he got involved with some of the elements in the neighborhood, and I chose not to. Again, with the same sort of situation, we had dual parents in our home. They worked hard, blue-collar workers, all from the South. And so I saw no reason why he should be any different than I was. But his question was, why was I so different? How did I make it, and he did not? And so that's the whole beginning question in the book is about that. What made me different? And for him, I mean, it was really tough. He had a very tough time. As teenagers, he ended up spending time in juvenile delinquency, went to prison, spent a number of years in prison. He came out, and he got out, recidivism. He would get out, he'd get more trouble. He got shot, I think 9 times, I think in the book it states. And so we didn't hang out as much as we used to because of that, his lifestyle. But he made a choice to be in that way, and I chose not to. And what helped me a lot was, my outlet was, again, basketball. I love basketball, and small as I was, I love basketball. And also, education became the big magnet later on for me. And that's probably helped me a lot. And again, I didn't want to be involved in that. We're cousins, but I didn't want to go down that road that they went down. So what made me different was, I could think the drive, and plus I was, he too, his old man was big. His dad was about 6'3", about 260 pounds, powerful man, very powerful. My dad wasn't that big, but I mean, he was very intimidating. I think I mentioned in the book, I was more afraid of him than I was of God. And so, because I didn't see God, but I saw him. So I was very careful about what I said because he had a long reach. I mean, he said he worked third shift at night, but he said, don't do something, don't do it because you got to deal with him. And I just didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
And so that helped.
Now, you said the basket was an outlet for you and education was important to you. However, you didn't always go after that higher, I want to say higher, let me say. You didn't strive for that success that as you identify it. Now, you hadn't always strive for that type of success. As a matter of fact, in the book you said, I did my best to avoid successful people in environments where I felt threatened by their level of education and my own ignorance and insecurities. So how did you stop avoiding these types of people in those types of environments and begin to embrace them instead?
I used to be intimidated at a young age by people who were well educated, and also white people. I thought they were very educated, and there was a lot in our neighborhood. So I was always careful of what I said because I may say something stupid, right? Appear very unintelligent, if that's the word. But when I was probably in my early 20s, I began to collect words. Whenever I heard a word I didn't understand, I'll write it down. And I'll look up the definition, I write the definition down. And whether I watch television or hear a conversation or read a book, almost every book I have, look at the back of it, you see words I wrote down for years. And I began to memorize these words. I would get the word and learn definition. And I would test myself and review the definition and say which word it was, try to match it. I did that for years. I had like a stack of cards like this, and I would test myself. And I began to work on those, and I wanted to be more intelligent. It sounded like it made sense because I wanted to gravitate vertically in corporate America. I knew that if I did that, I couldn't go in there talking the way I talk with our vernacular of cursing and broken English and slang, and you can't talk like that in corporate America, give a presentation. So I had to clean myself up, clean my act up. And I began to do that. And that helped me to get better, but my English started working on how I pronounce words and looking in the dictionary to exactly how words are broken up, where it is to break, pronouncing words properly as opposed to phonetically and how you hear things. And so I found myself in that kind of arena where I would hear things and pronounce them, but you know what? They're wrong. And I began to really focus, and that's helped me quite a bit.
Okay. So through those experiences, you gravitated to, it opened you up to new environments, would you say?
Correct.
There are more people, educated people, successful people, as you would call them. It exposed you to those types of people, right? So now you've went from the environment you grew up in, and you knew those type of people, and not saying anything negative about that. It's just that was a different environment than what you had transitioned over into once you started to educate yourself and going into corporate America, should I say. So you've been around a multitude of people, multitude of different personalities. Even in your book, you mentioned how each group exhibits behavior. It could be from idiocy to brilliance to genius. Why do you feel you needed to mention that and cover that in your context?
I'm glad you picked it out because that was important for me, and I want to share with other people that there's certain facets of the media that has a tendency to portray people in a negative light in different ways. Long before the term fake news became popular, we were aware of that, how the media is. Very slighting, okay? They pick someone they like, this person looks like a symbol of success. This one does not. This one looks violent, that one does not. This is a thug, that is not. So the media creates these images of people, and it starts to permeate some people's minds that they hold it against you because you fit a certain way. You look like so-and-so because you don't look like me. You look like this person I saw on television on this CSI last night or some crazy movie, and say because I've not been around you, that you probably are like that. And I want to show that when you're talking about a person who has behavior like an idiot, it doesn't matter the race or ethnicity. You know, none is exempt. And the same thing with brilliance and genius. If you really study it, every group exhibits that. It has nothing to do with race. It's all relative about what you're exposed to and what resources you have access to. And I want to share that because if you look at television, you could be fooled, you can be tricked.
That's right.
But you ask a person who lost someone in their life at the hands, let's say, of domestic violence, that person probably looked just like them. So why is it that you look at television or the media, certain print media or radio, and tell you on one person does that, that type of violence is not correct. So it's up to us how we want to change things. There are a lot of smart people, intelligent people in every race, every ethnicity, and every gender. But if you allow yourself, your mind to be, I guess, shaped by the media, the idiot box, then you're going to think the same way. That's why I use that.
Right. The media actually fuels the stereotypes. And for the mass communication people out here, it's called perceived reality. You know, people believe that everybody fits that mold because that's what they see on TV. And until they've had that real life experience, they don't know.
Let me add to that too. There's a book I read, and if you all get a chance to read this book, it's called Propaganda and Persuasion by Garth S. Jowett and Victoria O'Donnell. I read it years ago. It's an excellent book about propaganda. Now we don't hear that word much. We hear spinning, we hear marketing, you know, and you hear other words, pretty words that versus propaganda. But in the book, it talks about black propaganda, white propaganda, and gray propaganda. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with how they're going to change your mind. Every institution in America, including religion, they show how it's used to brainwash people, how to grab your mind, how it's done. Going back to the founding fathers, what they did, how they got your mind, how they, when most of the country was, the United States was illiterate, but only a few people, in terms of numbers, could actually read, were literate. So what they did, once they wrote the books, well now, by the time I let you read it, I already got it figured out. So that's the same thing's happening now, but not as prevalent in that way. But it's still, now a lot of images are used to sort of control the mind or shape the mind. We're conditioned to be a certain way. We're conditioned to act a certain way. It's all done by power. It's all done by persuasion. And that's a really good book.
Instead of letting the media tell you how something is, then you need to go experience it. And you can listen to it, but you need to experience it as well as what you're thinking. Have an open mind. Have an open mind. Okay. Even in your book, you talk about racial profiling experiences. That's our next E. The importance of it. The importance of having that experience. So it's a good segue. You talk about the racial profiling in your book. Do you want to elaborate on that? You've talked about it some before. Do you want to elaborate on
that? That was a tough time. My mom read that, and she read my book, and she said she didn't know some things in the book. She almost cried because she wasn't aware. I remember that I experienced some things. In the neighborhood I lived in, it was kind of common to be harassed by police, unfortunately. And I was small. I'm not that big now, but imagine I was probably half the size I am now, and probably height and weight. And what am I going to do? The police stopping me, get in the car. Why? For what? Take a ride? But I got harassed by police, and it became so common that I remember in Milwaukee, I was in school, and I talk about this in the book. One day I was going to get me a dinner, and I jumped off the porch to go to the restaurant, and all of a sudden I hear, "Halt! Don't move!" And I'm looking around, I see these bright lights I couldn't see. I looked down, I saw these really shiny shoes or boots. I said, "You gotta be police." And it was. And it was a female officer told me to get against the wall. Of course, assumed the position. And she had a gun to my head. Whereas over to the left in the field there, or the next yard rather, and you have a policeman with a shotgun. And I'm getting kind of a shakedown, but what? Long story short though, and she let me go, but I had an Illinois license plate and asked, "Why am I being stopped?" She said, "Because you fit the profile." This is back in the 80s. And so, long story short, after that...
They can read the rest of the book.
Yeah, read the rest of the book. I'll tell you the rest of it. Okay, that's right. So, okay, we'll cut it short on that one. Read the book.
I don't want to give it away,
That's
so you
right.
read the book.
Okay.
That's one experience that shaped you, that impacted you in some way. Even though it may have been a negative experience, it impacted you. And believe me, out of all things, something's going to come of it. And I think anything happens for nothing happens that doesn't have something attached to it. So it has helped shape you into who you are, and how having that open mind and knowing that experience can happen to others, because it's happened to you. You've even had a death of a sister, where you ended up delivering the eulogy. So if you can tell me, how did giving the eulogy for your sister, your youngest sister at that, test your mettle and relate that experience to leadership?
That was sometime in leadership, you're thrust into it. You don't ask for it, but you got to be ready. And that's when you determine if you're a leader or not, or what you're made of. People find out what you're made of. So my mettle was tested, of course, no one trying to, but because of the circumstances. I knew my family couldn't talk about it. My dad he couldn't talk in front of all those people, knowing he lost his daughter. My mother she was hysterical, and my siblings were younger, close in age, but they couldn't talk. So I became the spokesperson, being the oldest in the family, to stand up and speak, and didn't really expect that, but I had to be the one. And one thing I was glad about, that we didn't open the casket. We just had a photo on top of the casket. That helped, but standing in front of the audience, all hundreds of people, and talk about somebody you were really, really close to, you basically raised. She was 12 years my junior. And to talk, to stand up there, and then I can't even remember what I said. It was something other than me, and it got me up there, right? If you believe in spirits, whatever, something else stronger than me that kept my legs from not buckling, and me be able to deliver and talk about it and not break down, not cry and fall apart. I knew that I couldn't. At this time, I cannot cry. I cannot give in. I have to stand up here and give the speech. I knew that. That prepared me later when I got involved with Toastmasters to get more of the professional technical skills and then remember that event. That their audiences, that sometimes you don't always pick your own audience.
Right.
And so you may be thrust in a situation like now in corporate America, when you're speaking, I don't get intimidated by a room full of executives or CEOs. I mean, I do my thing. So that helped me. If I can speak in front of that many people about a time in my life that's really tough, I should be able to transition into corporate America. Although it's still intimidating, but you kind of prepare yourself. For the death, I couldn't prepare myself. I was thrust into it to do it. Now I get a chance to prepare myself. But it did help me a lot.
Okay. So there's quite a few other experiences in the book that they can take their time to read. I'm going to move on to another E, which is exposure and how important exposure is. You talk about in the book that you were playing basketball for Emmanuel Baptist and it exposed you to something different than what you came from. And how did that impact you? Can you talk to us about seeing that nice neighborhood that you weren't used to seeing and coming from? Things of that nature. You can go ahead and elaborate.
Well, Emmanuel Baptist was we played basketball in high school, my sophomore and junior year. And then our senior year, the coach cut 6 of us. Devastated. What's going on? Well, a guy we knew said there's a church in the neighborhood looking for some players. You all try out. So I said, okay. I called my buddy and we went over there and we tried out. We made the team and brought some other guys with us. This church was a church you consider a white church. There were the 2 coaches were white pastors. And we were one white guy on our team. And we had a really good team. And they traveled. We liked that. They traveled. They had money. so we liked that. But they were trying to convert young men to be Christians. And we wanted to play basketball, so we had a marriage. But the rule was, we didn't know this until we got over there, we had practice on Tuesday night. You had to come to Bible study first. I think 7 p.m. to 7:30. After Bible study, you can practice in the gym, church gym. Then after that, you can play in the game on Thursday nights. And then you could travel on weekends. If you did not come to Bible study, you couldn't practice. If you didn't do both, you couldn't play. So of course we did that. We were not going to the church to be Christians.
Oh my! Don't say that out loud.
That was not the reason why we were going to church. I mean, we were 16, 17 years of age. That was not on our mind to go to church. But we learned a lot, though. We learned a lot from being around those guys because they wanted us to be Christians. We wanted to play basketball. And little did we know, a lot of those lessons were seeping into us, at least into me. And that's how I met my wife. Because I had a cousin who played, a distant cousin, he played, and then he met this attractive lady from North Chicago who had a very gorgeous friend. And we became friends, and then that friendship turned into a courtship. And then now, 40 plus years later, we have 3 lovely children and 3 grandchildren. And we're still together. We still enjoy each other's company.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Actually, this book gives us a glimpse into the life of Ronnie Rice, right? That's his own type of exposure. So he's been willing to be transparent with all of us and virtually anyone who reads the book and saying what has helped mold him into the person he is. You even went on to be as transparent enough in the DVD that you produced regarding your marital status and the challenges in your marriage. Why would you do that? Why would you be so transparent, even with the ugly?
That was tough because my purpose for doing that and the way my wife received it was not the same. So it was a big risk. So because I did it out of pain, I guess it was kind of a catharsis for me, and I was not doing it to air dirty laundry about our marriage. That was never the intent. The intent was because I was trying to capture what I was experiencing, and it was a tough time because I was sharing earlier, I think, with my sister-in-law, that men and women, we do things differently in terms of how we handle pain. Women show emotions, they cry, and you see they get mad and throw things around. A man typically keep everything inside. But when you are the breadwinner or you are the head of the household, so to speak, and there's a lot of responsibility for you, and you're trying not to let your kids know these things because it's not for them to deal with. And you're trying to keep everything together. 2 people lose their job, 2 professionals, educated, lose a job at the same time. So we arguing and the whole experience of going through that and then moving in with with my dad who's retired, just to have peace in the house. And so that transparency helped me deal with that. It wasn't to the point I'm trying to share all the things going on in my household, because I did not. But the idea of that pain and just trying to deal with the challenges of my wife seeing things one way, she saw it more or less from a spiritual standpoint. She saw more or less God gonna bring us through. I'm looking at these bills not being paid. So, you know, how God brings us through, but right now, these bills gotta get paid, okay? So man sees it very differently. And so that transparency helped me to understand that, okay, we see things differently, but we gotta come together for the same reason. They both work together. And so I shared that in the DVD, and it helped a lot. It helped me a lot. And so my wife understood later that it wasn't a way to try to antagonize her or to share our dirty laundry. It wasn't for that reason. It was more or less just to talk about the experience itself and how we dealt with it, and how we overcame it. And now, we've survived it. So.
And so you gave that as, you shared that experience with others.
So what came out of that was transparency, that as far as leadership, what people who look up to those who are leaders or strong, what they want to see is transparency. If you're lying, conniving, hiding things, and you're duplicitous, you say one thing and then say another, a good person won't follow you. You know, I can't trust you. You lie all the time, and you have favoritism, and you have nepotism, and you know, you talk like you walk on water. You got a perfect marriage. You know, you got the JCPenney photos, the whole family. You know, you got a great big house and expensive cars and all the money. And life is a facade. It's a facade. It makes it very difficult for someone to follow you. So being transparent, I learned that too, that when you're genuine, people follow you. You can influence better. You're more effective that way. And that's what I learned out of that as well.
Okay.
Being transparent, very well respected.
So you're telling us about how to be transparent, so giving of ourselves. How do we learn more about others and gaining exposure to something different than what we already know? For example, instead of letting the media that we talked about tell us about a certain country, go and experience that country for yourself. What examples would you give to others? How can they gain exposure to something different than what they already know?
It's a good question. You know, everybody can't travel. We never travel. I was just telling my brother, my wife and I just had our first vacation, true vacation, two of us, after 18 years. Because raising kids, before you know it, the years are going by so fast you forget. We've gone back home, back and forth, but as far as true vacation, two of us, 18 years. And when you're growing up and you have limited resources, you can't travel. Particularly if you have a big family where you don't have a lot of means for it, you can't travel a lot. But books can take you there. Books can take you there. Books. The library is free. They have movies, they have books, they have study groups. There's so many things that you can learn that can take you where you want to go, and you can imagine your dream. I mean, that's how people become visionaries. I think of Walt Disney, who was a visionary, and the story about he and Art Linkletter, his good friend. He took Art to Orange Grove one day, and as they're walking, and he would ask Art, "What do you see? Do you see Disneyland?" All right, so I see just orange grove and weeds and bushes. No, do you see Epicenter and all these different things of Disneyland, all different things inside Disneyland? He named them all. And Art said, "My friend is nuts. You lose this freaking mind." He said, no, I see Disneyland is my idea, my dream. And he couldn't see it. He just could not grasp it. Art couldn't. And as we know, Walt Disney created Disneyland. Art said, I realized that every step I took that day cost me $3 million. Had he invested, because Walt asked him to invest in my dream, my vision, but Art wouldn't do it. He thought it was crazy. So what I'm saying is you have to have a dream, a vision, and you can take yourself away from where you are, because the way you live doesn't mean you have to relegate yourself to that and nowhere else. Regardless of where we live, where I live, any of you live, you can still be somewhere else. My program I teach down in Barnville, I remember I said, I thought I went back in time. Cotton fields, school, like it was basically segregated. I said, do you all know you're segregated? I said, what is that? Yeah, this is in 2000, it's segregated, And seeing that, but then I met a guy I used to work with, Barb, you may know him, he was a doctor at Greenville Hospital System, medical doctor. Came out of the same environment. What made him different? This man came in an area, we're talking about abject poverty. Poverty and low income. It's like people like do you all know it's the 2000s? Do you have television? You would think people back there, down there in some areas, are like a whole nother world. This is the state of South Carolina. This is in the United States. That's what it seemed like. But this guy made it out. Valedictorian. And I've seen a couple others. What make them different? So it doesn't matter the environment. It's all about the choice you make, what you do for yourself. You can change that. You got to be the one to change the behavior, change the environment, change the scope. Get out. Maybe you can't go to Europe. Maybe you can't go to Africa. Maybe you can't go overseas. But in your mind, you can build things. You know what? That may be a creative project or product you may build one day. And that may take you away.
Right.
I mean, Steve Jobs wasn't born like that.
Right.
But he had a vision. He had a vision, made it work.
And you may not be able to go to a country, but if you meet a person from that country, engage them and learn about them. You know, so that's one way. You're saying, you know, I say travel, I use that as an example. You're saying books and education. So you're saying that those types of exposure is imperative to developing into a leader.
Absolutely.
Is what you're telling me, is what I'm hearing.
And being open-minded, like you said, open-minded to talk to people who are unlike yourself. To be open and willing to accept things that you may not be agreeable with, but at least have the conversation.
Exactly.
Open your mind.
Exactly. I applaud you on that. You know how I feel about that. Okay. In today's society, Hollywood tends to favor the youthful appearances for appeal. Sports and athletics tend to focus on attention on the brawn and for impact. At this stage in your life, where do you see where you fit in regard to affecting and influencing others?
The thing about influencing is there's no age limit on creativity, the way I look at it. It doesn't matter. I mean, with sports, brawn, you're going to get old, you can't do a lot of things, probably around 20, 30, 40, depending on what sport you're in. Hollywood, same thing. They focus on people like late teens, early 20s. But that ends quickly, right? But creativity, the brain, the mind can last until you can't think anymore. And so that's why I don't have any problem with that. That is all about creativity. It's ageless. And where I am today in my life, I'm still being creative. I'm still able to influence people effectively. And I'm proud of that. That keeps me going because someone will listen to me still. You know, not only my kids, but other people too listen sometimes. And then I get you all come out support me. So that lets me know that I'm on the right track. That regardless of who I am, where I am, still I must be relevant to somebody. Right.
And so we talked a bit about exposure and experiences and things of that nature. I'm going to move into epiphanies, the aha moments, the change of perception. So what, like for example, there was a time where you were in Alabama and you had to dig a grave. And then while you were this is in the book, while you were digging that grave, you were at the bottom looking out. And tell me what you were feeling like. In other words, what did you take away from that ritual?
That was the most eeriest feeling. My brother may know about that, about digging graves. I mean, it seemed to be far-fetched, but in that environment, it was very common for the family members to assist with digging graves. Me being from the city, it was not something I was used to. But I assisted because I felt it was my duty to, because everybody was there. Well, around you got to dig too. And I did. Get down in that grave, we're talking about 6 feet down. And you're down, and you can't really get out, right? Because you don't have a ladder, unless, I guess you could jump out maybe, but they pull you out. They pull you out. But I can remember standing at the bottom of that grave and looking up, and it's just the weirdest feeling in the world. Something comes over you, think about at least I thought about my own mortality, that this is it, this is the end right here. Yet I'm alive, but this is the end. So it made me think about life itself, more precious, to enjoy it. Because this is going to happen one day, right? One way or another, it's going to be a finale to all of us. But that's what I saw. And I was glad to get out of the grave, I tell you that.
Right.
I was glad to get out. And but I did think about that, and then you get out, and then you know the body's going to go down in the grave. But I thought about how precious life really is, and to enjoy it. Enjoy life. Every breath I take, I thank God for it.
So that was your epiphany, was to enjoy life. That was that epiphany. So you had many epiphanies in the book. Like you started off this conversation about never giving up, and you had a football encounter or experience where you had an aha moment that you had right in the middle on that football field. You want to elaborate on that? Seizing the opportunity and making the most of it?
Yeah, I was a scrub in high school, so I played 1 year football. My friends convinced me to go out. I was a basketball guy, but they convinced me to go out, so I went out and played. And I would never play. The guy practiced every week, every day, and game time come, I sit on the bench. I quit. My friends convinced me to come back, so luckily I did go back. And finally, last game of the season, all seniors started. I got a chance to start. But I prepared myself. By now, I was practicing against the A team, A stream, but I just wasn't playing. And I said, this is funny how I got so many yardage. The yardage ended up being the way they was that day. I told my buddy, I said, okay, when I run a touchdown, what we're going to do, we're going to meet at the 50-yard line, midfield. We're going to hold hands like this and run down the field. Touchdown. I saw this in my head. I just saw it. He got kicked out of the game for spearing early in the game. And so the first handoff I got, I went to the line, and then the hole was blocked. So I went left, went around the end, and came around. And I remember that, so now in my mind, I'm thinking about my other buddy on the side of the field who was unaware of this vision that I had to meet him, and then we run down the field. But it didn't happen that way, so I ended up running down the field. And I scored a touchdown. When I wanted to quit, I was so tired, I ran probably, it's 100 yards on the football field. I probably ran 100 yards or 20 yards to go. And my legs felt rubbery, my shoes felt like they were lead spikes, lead boots. And my head was back like this. All I saw was the sky. I just saw the sky, and I felt like my lungs on fire, and I was ready to quit, just stop. I just couldn't take it anymore. And this guy, the opponent was coming toward me. I could kind of hear it. Boom, 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 boom. Footsteps. And I saw out of the periphery of my eye, a hand reaching out. And something said, oh no, oh no. I reached deep down inside, and I pulled my head down. I reached down inside, and I dug those ragged spikes in the ground. I ran and ran. And I crossed the line, and then I turned. I heard everybody cheering, but I looked over at the side, at the coach. I looked at the ground. I'll make sure no flags on the ground. And that's in the book. So, but that helped me because later on in life, when things get really, really tough, when I wanted to quit, I thought about that moment. I referred back to that. There's always something in your life you can refer back to and help me, inspired me during times of challenge, to not to give up.
That's right.
Stay in there.
That's right. Great. Another great epiphany. There's more, and I'm going to skip a couple of them so you can read the book. And there was one that you had a statement in there, and I knew it was an epiphany at that moment when you said to yourself, not all white people are bad, not all people of color are good. What was that moment that light bulb went off for you? Because you weren't surrounded by that. You had to experience that person, like I was saying, engage the person that's different from you, or what we were saying. What was that epiphany moment that you made that statement?
I spent a lot of years reading and studying African American history, sociology, theology, and self-study after class, self-study. And I would go hear speakers. And speakers, they were called, at the time, Afrocentric speakers. We talked about the plight of the black person, from Africa all the way until the current time. And so trying to get those things together, where disconnects were, understanding what really mattered. And then you hear these slants on both sides. One group saying that they're the bad guy, this group saying they're the bad guy. You realize that, guess what? Both have bad in them, both have good in them. It's not just one group. In spite of all the different things, I'm quite aware of all the different things, the system that's created, but even with that, I look at what Reginald F. Lewis said. He wrote a book called Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? It's a great book. The title will fool you. Reginald F. Lewis, back in the 90s, he had a business, TLC Beatrice, that had $1 billion revenue, unheard of back then. A black man. What he was saying was this: in spite of all the things in this country, in this world, you live in a country where you can make a difference. You can still be successful. Because no matter what race you are, what gender, somebody's suffering somewhere, right? It's not all one group. As I mentioned earlier, there are black people killed by black people. The media tell you just one group of people are killing, but no. As a person who lost their loved one to the hand of someone who looked just like them, regardless of the race or the gender. And so I was trying to tell that we have It exists in both.
Mhm.
And human nature is what it is. You put in certain predicaments, survival or whatever, if you're in a position where you think that you are superior to everybody else, you probably do some dumb things.
Mhm.
You know, if you believe you're inferior, then you're going to be a victim. And I was trying to share that no one's exempt, no such thing as superiority on one group, no such thing as inferiority on one group. We live in a country where we have choices. We can make a difference. We can change our situations, as opposed to some people, they have no choice at all. We have a choice. We don't have to stay where we are. Yes, it's challenging, but we all have different challenges. Not every person is doing so well that they can't be touched
That's right.
in life.
That's right. So you've learned through experience. You've educated you've reached out and embraced education. You had epiphany moments, so you've evolved throughout all of these things. And you stepped out on faith. Now, in order to evolve, you have to take some risk. So talk to me about a calculated risk that is in the book versus being reckless.
For young people in particular, you all got a bright future in front of you. You want to be calculated. And what that means is you want to think things out. Think about, Robert Margaret said, start with the end in mind. How you expect to see things at the end. How you want it to be. Think of that first, and then start making a step toward how you want it to be. Calculate, okay, if I were to go buy, let me give you an example. If I got involved in real estate, okay, did some research, did some studying on it. It appeared to be a calculated risk. My goal was to get 10 properties. Okay. Ended up with 4. One I inherited, but it became a nightmare because there are a lot of things that unexpected that happened with real estate investing I was not aware of. If you don't have the means, financial means, you don't have a good team, you could suffer, you could lose everything you have, everything you got. And for some people, there's no coming back, there's no bouncing back. So if you're going to get involved with anything like that, investing, whether you're going to buy a franchise, whether you're going to invest in real estate, whether you're going to buy a business, whatever it is, do your homework. Have a backup plan, have a safety net, because you may not be able to recover. It may set you back 5 or 10 years, you don't know it now. It looks good on the surface, but this may cost you the next 10 years of your life. You may struggle. So the calculated risk is knowing what can happen and having these stops in place. In the event this thing does not work, what do I do? Okay, I'm going to step out here on faith, or I'm going to go out and start a business, lead a company. I have enough money to last me about a year. Okay, that's good. That's calculating. So if this thing fails, all right, how far am I going to fall? Where's my stop? If there's no stop, you tumble. You may find yourself again homeless. You may find yourself divorced. You may find yourself involved with drugs because you find these vices to replace that. Okay, try to fill these voids. You have no idea what can happen. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. As opposed to just go out and try anything, buy anything, jump on it. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll go in with you. Let's go in. Let's go buy this franchise. I like you. You're smart. Okay, do it. And then you cost everything. You lose everything. My nephew got kind of caught up like that. He let somebody praise him, say good things about him. He didn't come to my dad or to me or nobody else. And he got involved with a business that was well over his head. And then his so-called partners end up leaving, and it's on you. You got this now. He didn't have the means for that. Nowhere near it. So those sort of things, as far as being calculated or being reckless, be careful. Do your homework. Don't be so trusting of people just because they look good, they sound good. Do your homework. Do your homework.
And you said begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind.
And hopefully it's tied to your purpose. What is your purpose? What is the end purpose? What are you here for? What are you passionate about? You know, whatever your end is. So that means setting goals and aligning those goals along with that purpose and with that end in mind. Right? So how does a leader stay focused on the goal despite of all the distractions, the discouragement, the obstacles that come their way? How they stay focused on that goal?
One thing is, I think we got to have, a lot of people don't know how to set goals. That's number one. They think they do. You know, you say like, well, I want to be rich. What does that mean? That's not a goal. Okay, what are you going to do to get rich? Well, I just want to be rich. No, you gotta have a plan. What are your goals? What is the plan for you to get rich? I hear this all the time. I ask this question in one of my sessions, young people, especially young men. I want to be an NBA ball player. I want to be a pro football player. I mean, believe it. Believe it. Okay, what's your plan? What are your goals? Do you know what it takes to be that? And I can attest to it now because seeing our son go through it, what the rigors of being a top tier football player, making all state, and then been playing for SEC team on national television and travel with NFL, then going overseas. So there was a plan in place.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just wake up one day and say, I want to be a baller. There has to be a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And what if it doesn't work out? What if you get injured? Then what? What's your backup plan? And a lot of people don't understand that. So you got to set goals, and the goals got to be measurable.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a timeline on them. You know, at what point? Okay, at this point, I'm going to try this, but if I don't make it, maybe it's time to reset my goals. Try something different, something new.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What you're referring to is a SMART goal.
Smart goals.
You can look
smart
it up
goals.
and Google it.
You gotta have a
SMART
plan.
goal, yes. And okay, so I'm motivated. I got the end in mind, tied to my purpose, hopefully.
Mhm.
Or if it's not, then some people do that. And I'm setting my plan. I'm setting my goals. I'm setting all of this, and I'm on my way. And I have an obstacle. I have a setback. I have a failure. What is your advice for overcoming that failure?
Learn from it. I mean, that's probably, sometimes consequences and losses and failures and setbacks are our best teachers. But we oftentimes see it as punishment. As we'll say, we hear people say, well, God abandoned me, or so-and-so set me up. I didn't have the right help, or the man kept me down. It's always something, right? It's always something. But no, you have to be able to bounce back and look at those situations. It's a part of life. It's a part of me. It's a part of you. Learn from them. Bounce back. Consequences are lessons for life. They teach you. Setbacks, failures. You learn a lot from it. Look at Michael Jordan. When he got cut in high school, what did he do? He went and worked harder. It made him go back and start working on skills that he didn't have at the time. But he said, you know what, that coach was a chump. You know, he didn't like me because of what? You know, because I look funny, because I'm too skinny, or whatever the case may be. We make excuses, and those excuses keep us trapped. And then the boundaries become smaller and smaller and smaller until you never break out and never achieve your goal because you gave up already.
Yep, you talk about never giving up. So all of that we've talked about up until now has played a part into being an effective leader. How would you describe an effective leader? In addition to what we've already talked about, what qualities would they possess?
I'll think a few. And young people, remember this, okay? Everybody remember this, but let me try to tell you what I know. I learned that one quality I say is an effective leader has the ability to handle crisis, chaos. When things get out of hand, whether it's in your family, whether it's your job, your life, career, whatever it is, they have the ability to hold steadfast. They get you through it. Okay? They don't give up. They don't crumble. They don't collapse under pressure. Effective leaders have a sense of urgency. Things are important to them. They believe in order. They believe in structure. They believe in direction. It makes sense to them. They get it done. They don't drag their feet. Effective leader, someone has a vision. They see things that other folks don't see. They take calculated risk. They're not afraid. They're not afraid of failure. They're not afraid that they may have a setback. That doesn't scare them. Effective leader, someone's very courageous. I think they're willing to take the risk. They look at the Martin Luther Kings, the Gandhis, the Malcolm X's. We look at people like throughout history have shown us that there are people who are not afraid to take the risk, who are not afraid to go and fight in the storm and lead for you. And that's what we call an effective leader, I think. Those are some of the qualities I think that makes a person someone you want to follow. And they have the ability to make others around them better. They see your strengths, they see your weaknesses. They're not going to try to tear you down, beat you down, or hold you back. They're going to try to build you up. They see something in you. They're going to help you get from point A to point B. You may be struggling. They're not going to say, well, let's just cut bait, get rid of him, get rid of her. No, they're going to find out what's going on, sit down, talk with you. Let's find out what are some of the areas that's causing you heartburn. How can we fix it? And last but not least, they believe that rising tide lifts all boats, which means that if I'm a leader, I'm not trying to compete with you. You're probably smarter than I am. More educated, more talented, more skills. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Because if you do well, then I do well. If I compete with you, I'll keep you down. I don't want to see you succeed. I don't want to see your star shine. That's not effective leader.
Right.
You know?
Right. And you also referred to the acronym, the GOAT acronym, GOAT, as well as the lion and the fox and leadership analogy on the back of the cover of the book. Talk to us about that effectiveness, about the effectiveness of those references.
The GOAT acronym I just found out about a year ago. I know.
Me too.
Because see now, originally the GOAT was a bad term. Back in the day, the GOAT meant you were like someone that caused us to lose a game. You know, you were no good. You were garbage. But it's kind of fun. I heard the GOAT. They said Michael Jordan, the GOAT. I said, the GOAT? The GOAT's not good? Where did they get that from? And I think one of my kids said, no, Dad, it means greatest of all time. What? GOAT means garbage. I mean, you're a bum, a scrub. But no, the term has changed, you know, over time. But what I say in the book, I talk about you don't have to be on top to be effective, to be influential. Because you can be in an organization and the person may be the CEO, the executive, the top manager, but he or she wonders why, man, you know, I can't get people to do anything. But when you come around, they all gravitate. And listen, I can't get them to do nothing. But you're the person they like. And you report to me. You're a subordinate. What is it about you? There's something about you they respect. Your transparency. You are the greatest of all time because of who you are. You can go out there and move a whole group without having a title. The part about the lion and the fox is, that's from Machiavelli. The lion, you gotta be strong. The lion is strong, but he can't see the trap set for him. The fox is smart, but he can't fight off the enemy. So you gotta have both. I look at it as growing up, that in the hood, we call it the hood where I grew up, you have to be strong, right? Because if you don't, you succumb to those pressures, the resources in that environment that are negative, these vices that can consume you. And then in corporate America, you gotta be smart. Because you deal with a lot of smart people. A lot of people sometimes who are very tricky, very crafty. And you gotta be on your toes. So you gotta have both, really. What it's saying is, you can't do one without the other. You gotta have the strength of a lion, the smartness of a fox. No matter what you do, whether it's in whatever job you're in, whatever you do in your life, you need to have the strength and qualities of both to be successful.
So you told us about all of these things, about being the GOAT, about setting the goals, never giving up, you know, things of that nature. From your experience, let's wrap it up with, from your experience, in one word, what do you think prevents some people from reaching those goals that they've set and achieving the success that they have in mind?
My word would be distractions. Distractions. That word, and that has a lot of different meanings, because distractions, you look at when you're growing up, think about things that you did, you try to focus on one thing, and then you get torn away to go somewhere else, right? As a kid. We all was playing out in the backyard, riding our bikes, and we may do 5 or 6 different things in the same day. At some point, you got to pick one and get good at it, right? And the same thing in the company, that sometimes if you try to be all things, all people, in the end, you're not nothing to nobody. You can't be. You can't satisfy everybody. You just can't do it. And I think distractions succumb a lot of people I grew up with because they got caught with devices. They felt at the time that hustling was cool, whether they was out trying to get women to go out and sell for them, whether they were selling drugs, whether they thought the dice game would get them to the next level, whatever the case may be. And after a while, 1 year goes by, 3 years go by, 5 years go by, now you're out of high school. What have you done? What have you accomplished? Now I have no skills. Or you're playing sports, and all you do is sports at the expense of education. I mentioned that in the book. Why aren't you in the library? Why aren't you studying? Why aren't you learning something? Because now you may be pretty today, you may be smart, you may be handsome today, you may be a good athlete, but at some point, you gotta start paying attention, and you gotta use this. You don't have it. You've been a big old guy, good at basketball, big at football, but now the cheering, clapping has stopped. You didn't make it to the NFL, NBA, or Major League Baseball, or you got injured, your career was short. Now what? All those coaches, all those people that love you, you can't even find them because you can't carry a conversation. What do you got to offer me? Besides football, we gave you a scholarship, we gave you a platform, all right? But what do you got to offer now? Beauty pageant, cheerleader, all those things, but at some point, you have to be able to carry a conversation. You gotta give me something. You gotta be able to work on the computer. Give me something else I can pay you for. I can't just pay you for it at the age of 40 or 30, what you did 18, 19, and early 20s. And so that is very important. I think that distractions we allow them to get in our way, and then we don't achieve success that we want because we don't pay attention to the things that's important. We have to prioritize. I always believe this, that people would do whatever's important to you, you make a priority.
That's right.
And you get it done. Anybody, you can test anybody. You can say, okay, I want you to come to, let's say I invite somebody to come here, and then they show up. And they'll see me tomorrow during the week. Man, I was gonna come in, but I got so and so, so and so. It's okay, because you know what? It wasn't that important to you. That's okay. But whatever's important to you, you took care of. When something's important to you, you make it a priority, you get it done, no matter what it is. And I try to live by that as much as I can, because it's important to other people. If I tell you I'll be there, I'll be there. If I can't, I'll let you know I can't be there. But distractions, we sometimes get carried away because different things, whether it's as a young man growing up, if it's women, if it's drugs, whatever the case may be, a lot of folks succumb to that because they get distracted. Too much time on the football field and the basketball court or in the weight room and nothing up here.
Okay. So we see that you have set a lot of goals in your life.
I tried.
Some of them worked out well, and some of them not so well, but you didn't give up.
Right.
So we've talked about all of that, and you have actually had quite a list of accomplishment that is pretty impressive. You've got your Raising Corn business, which is the after-school program for young adults. It's 17 years strong now. You're a motivational speaker. You have the DVD from 2010, that self-producing DVD from your experience with the recession. You have a T-shirt line that's good, selling on Amazon. And now we're at the book. You know, your first book release and is available online in bookstores. It's going to actually be available in the libraries through ebook. So tell us, what drives you? What drives Ronnie Rice? What continues to motivate you to rise like the phoenix?
It's always a challenge. You know, it's always something good that keeps you going. I think I've always been motivated by staying busy. If I don't stay busy, I get to where maybe a slight depression, maybe. I don't know. I just get bored. I mean, I have to keep doing things. I got to keep moving. We say in our family, rices can't be still. They keep moving. If you got our bloodline, rice is always moving, always want to go. And so, but we always got to be doing something, and it makes you feel good about a hard day's work. There's a lot of truth in that. Last year I painted my deck, and it was hard, it was challenging, but when I look at the results of it, I love it. I love it. I go home, I can enjoy myself. There's always something around the house to do. My brother likes to do cars, and I know you restore cars a lot. But you have to have something that you feel value in, you invest in, there's a return on it, no matter what it is. And that's what keeps me going. I like just seeing things. I like making people happy, if you will, or how does someone get from point A to point B? How can I help you? If I can help, they come to me, ask for help. If I can help you, one thing about getting old is good, is this, is when you get older, it's all about wisdom. You like for people to come ask you questions. When you get skills and talent, you want to share. This is odd because a lot of young people don't go to older people, and they want you to come to them. They would tell you how to get to the next step. They're going to help you avoid some of these landmines if you ask them a question. Just imagine asking Bill Gates, if you want to be rich, how can I be rich? Ask Steve Jobs, how can I invent? I mean, you've invented the iPod, the Apple, all these things, the Mac. How'd you do it? You know, ask the man a question. There are people you see every day who are very talented, who have a lot of good experience, years of wealth of knowledge and experience, and nobody ever asked them. Look at the old man in the corner over there. That old lady ain't nothing but old hag. I don't want to talk to her. But a young person who's smart will tap into that and find out. Right. They're going to jump from A all the way to L, all the way to Z, while you still on B, trying to figure it out. Yeah.
So wrapping up, we know that you had the epiphany in the grave that you knew that life is a gift. As you evolve or continue to evolve on this life's journey, what would your legacy look like? So, in other words, if someone were to write a tribute about you, how would it read?
I don't know. I think that you all answer that question. I don't know.
How would you like for it to read?
That he came through and he made a difference and people laughed. Everybody he met, they walked away with something more than what they did when they met him. He didn't take away from anybody. He made it better. That he was someone that he challenged you intellectually. He made you think. Even if you get a presentation, he make you think about it. Wasn't always the smartest, but was afraid to be wrong. You know, wasn't afraid to say things that made sense. Always try to help people to get to the next level. So that's probably, I guess, in a short, I guess, Cliff Notes version, probably the best way. And just, of course, my family, it goes without saying, but.
Absolutely,
You know.
absolutely. Well, that concludes my questions. If you haven't already gotten the book, you can still order it online. It is available at Zulon Press Bookstore / When Phoenix Rise online, and he's going to be around next Saturday for a
Hub
book
City,
signing.
down the street's a bookstore, Hub City Books, so
Mm-hmm.
y'all come again.
If you want us even to sign the book, you know, if you haven't already gotten it, he will be around to sign today. But that is XULON Press Bookstore / When Phoenix Rise, if you would like to order the book, if you haven't already got your copy. And, you know, we are open for audience participation. I hope you've enjoyed what we've done here today. I hope you can take away something from this event. Is there any comments, questions, insight, or input?
Did touch on one of them, but Ron, so besides your family, who would you say was your biggest mentor?
Oh, that's a good question. There were several. Actually, I think I would probably look at the most recent, when I got out of high school, was during undergrad. There was a graduated from SIU University, which is really at the Great Lakes Naval Base. It was held at the Naval Base. And two professors there, Dr. Hall and Dr. Pancrazio, the Italian guy. Very, very influential. They were big. And then moving up to Abbott Labs, I started working there in '85, I think it was. There were a couple, and one guy in particular, two guys in particular, who helped my career a lot. They were really big, and watching some of the guys I knew how they carried themselves. And one guy in particular, a friend of mine living from Chicago, he grew up on the west side in a tough area, went on to school, went to the University of Wisconsin, and got his master's degree from DeVry. Wife engineer, both engineers, and they live a real nice life. And I liked how he carried himself. In corporate America, he just had this attitude that he walked around, I always said like he had house shoes on, you know, like slippers on. But it was something about him that I admired. I met his family, and they're all like that. They're all well educated. I mean, his sister graduated from Harvard, her husband from Harvard. And so just seeing his lifestyle, how they carried themselves in a large family, it kind of impressed me.
Would you say that he was humble?
Yeah, very
Is that
humble.
what you
Very
mean by
humble.
house shoes?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there were several.
The other one was, and you kind of touched on this with the distractions, and you have several young kids in here as well. So with the kids wanting to be YouTubers and on Instagram and whatever else is out there, what other words of encouragement would you give kids? And I definitely believe your book is a good startup for, you know, the younger generation.
Thank you.
To, you know, what other words of encouragement would you give young adults going into leadership or how to be more effective?
I say one, integrity. Don't sell your soul just to have that job. There's a word I use in there is called Faustian. That's kind of make a deal with the devil. You want to be on top, so whatever it takes to be on top, you do. Don't do that. It's not worth it. In the end, you will pay. You may do well for a while, look good on top, but I guarantee you, you're going to do one or two things that typically happens. Well, actually three. In corporate America or in business, when you're like that, you're unethical. If you are not transparent, if you take advantage of other people, typically what happens is that person will end up scorching the earth. Okay, which means they're going to ruin a lot of people. A lot of good folks are going to leave under that person because they have an iron fist way of managing. So my way or the highway. It'll work for a short term. Or they're going to crash and burn. We look at AIG, we look at Bear Stearns, you look at Lehman Brothers. Look at that history, you guys. Go back and check it out and see what happened during the recession. That's what caused the recession. Greed, people who were unethical, or they're going to go over a cliff, like lemons. That when they go over and you attach yourself to the wrong person, be very careful, young people, when you're working, who you align yourself with. Some people feel like they got to put the hooks in a certain person, and sometimes that person, maybe the one next in line, is going to be slaughtered. as far as career goes. When they go over, the ones who say this person's gonna go, they're gonna remember you were the one who aligned yourself with them, and guess what? You're gonna go too. So be very careful. Be who you are. Be fair who you are. Treat people with dignity and respect at all times, and be very, very careful again who you hit your wagon to.
And I think, I mean, I'm just going to piggyback off of something that you were saying about the YouTubing and things. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but your validation should not come from how many likes you get on YouTube, or you know how many people subscribe, because that equates to the hand claps that he was talking about. What happens when those claps stop? What happens when you stop getting those likes? You know, so you have to have that self-worth within you. It can't come from all these people, you know, that's following you online.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that was me.
Thank you. My brother Glenn.
I'm just going to elaborate on a couple of things. Ron and I grew up in the South, he grew up in the North. And some of the things that I gathered from the book that really got my attention was two things: trust and respect. A lot of that is in that particular book. And of course, I'm validating some of the things that he did say. He did tell the truth about grade. We did have to do grade things of that nature ourselves. And of course, he did play basketball. He wasn't good as you think he was. He did play basketball.
I got trophies to prove it.
Yeah, you go. Okay, all right. And I just really want to applaud you for the book.
Thank you, bro.
It was a really good book.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. I'm just glad you didn't get mushy.
Thank you, Glenn.
Very good.
Thank you.
Do we have any comments, insight, things to add? Any more questions for Ronnie? Please feel free.
Don't be shy. Or we're gonna
Please
let everybody
don't.
stand up and
I
ask
already
questions.
see some people, some minds are turning. Go ahead.
What would you say to people of our age who want to lead like within the school, but like people are trying to like break them down from being like third grader and stuff?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think first, volunteer, move forward and say you let the person know that you want to lead. Find out what it takes to be a leader in that environment. Lean on your dad, your mom, as far as guidance, and that you have them to support you as opposed to social media. Don't get caught in social media. It's a distraction. It can destroy you. Like everything else, social media treated like alcohol or like cigarettes with warnings on the side. Moderation. I'm not saying you can't do social media, but in moderation. And be firm and know who you are. Don't let other people get to you, because everybody got something to say about somebody else. No matter how good you are. I remember telling my daughter, she came home one day complaining about people talking about her, and she's kind of resembling you guys, you know, the skin complexion and the good hair and all that. And girls have weird ways of getting at each other, right? And they get on each other's skin. And I said, it doesn't matter. I said, they're gonna talk about you regardless, so you may as well be
That's
successful.
right. That's right.
Because if you fail, they're gonna talk about you. So go ahead and be successful. Go ahead and do it. Go get it.
Regardless of what they say.
Yeah, they may be the same ones that gravitate to you once you get there.
And they may be
That's
working
good.
for you one day.
Yeah, don't be afraid.
Do you have a leader in your school? I'm sorry. Do you have a leader in your school that you look up to, or someone? If you find that person, engage that person and see what you like about that person, and they will be happy to share with you to pull you up to where they are.
Good.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid to be
absolutely.
first. I mean,
Absolutely.
I have a slogan that says, "Make footsteps, don't follow them." Which means you can be the pioneer. You can change the one. You can be the one to be an influential,
right.
effective leader. Mr. Walker.
I'd like to add to the comment to the young lady, and I'm sure it's in the book because I know you and we talked about it several times. Was have courage.
Yeah.
So what they're talking about you, or it doesn't seem like you're uncomfortable stepping forward to be that leader. Have courage.
Right.
Step on forward. Whether you fail or not, step forward and you'll find out. You know, yeah. But
Take
I'm
it
sure it's in the book. It's
It's
a
in the book.
conversation we have all the time.
That's right.
Okay, so just
That's
something
right.
to add.
Mr. Kevin.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge the comments you made about transparency.
Okay.
There's oftentimes that you're right, we see someone and we see the best, even if it's like, let's say it's a social media situation. We see all these good things and we never realize what happens, as they say, behind closed doors.
That's right.
So when you're able to say, oh, somebody really does struggle with money management.
Right.
Or somebody really does struggle with family members who are needy, or someone struggles with whatever those things are, that there are many of us who felt like, we were the only ones having this situation. And then to know that, hey, There are people who are, as we see them as successful, or we wonder why this has or has not happened. Now we're able to see, oh, they've had other things to deal with
That's right.
that weren't available or weren't shared with us around.
That's correct.
And it gives you
Good.
encouragement that you can overcome too, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you, thank you.
absolutely. That was very good.
Good.
I had a comment, question over here.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I thought it was a good book.
Thank you.
I think that it will be great for educators. I mean, especially like first year teachers, those novice teachers. Because I work in the school with young people as well. And we don't, I know when I was growing up, nobody ever told me, you have a plan B.
Right.
I want to be a teacher. What do you have to do to be a teacher? I never had anybody tell me that, even though we had guidance counselors and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, some of the stuff was really, really good.
Thank you.
Especially for educators.
Thank you. And please share that with
I will.
your
I will share
network.
with the group I work with.
That's what I want people to do, because to me it's a gift only if you give it away, right? So for me, I did it, I wrote it, it's part of me, but what makes it really work is me sharing with other people, and you all share what you got out of it. That's the real value of it, so thank you for that.
And I think you had stats in there about the,
Right. NCAA?
from high school to, maybe I'm talking about the young men and they want to be basketball
Yep.
players, and that was good too. And I think
Thank you.
I'm gonna share that too.
Please do, because they don't understand. I mean, the chance of making it
Yeah.
is like a needle in a haystack, but they don't get it.
No.
And they don't get it until it's too late. So that's why it's in the book. Thank you.
See-
I gotta say, man, I'm just sitting back in the back, and I'm just, I don't even know, I'm being taken a breath, I guess I'm being taken aback a little bit, because I'm looking at you, and I'm like, man, that's probably how I'm gonna be magnify this thing. I'm sitting up here and I'm listening to you, and so many of the points that you were pointing out, I mean, are just so vivid in my mind, that I really understand where you're coming from. And one of the things that I think you pointed out, a couple of things that I think you pointed out just in this discussion that you're having up here, one of which is distraction. I think another term for distractions is self-sabotage. I think a lot of times we self-sabotage ourselves
We do.
in our lives when we're trying to advance, when we're trying to grow, when we're trying to be whatever it is that we're trying to do. And that self-sabotage comes in the form of distractions.
That's correct.
Be it friends, be it career, be it family, be it girlfriend, boyfriend,
Sure.
whatever it is. We allow for distractions to enter our lives. And I think one of the things that you said that was right on point is you gotta stay being a visionary about where it is you're trying to go.
Right.
You gotta always be approaching everything that you're doing with the end game in mind. In business, we call it an exit strategy, right?
Yep.
So you always gotta approach most things with an exit strategy. You can't go in thinking that you're gonna be able to run that 4-3
That's
all the way
right.
to your 40, right?
That's
What you gonna do
right.
after you stop running that 4-3?
That's
What you
right.
gonna do after you stop benching 500 pounds and all these other things?
Right.
Or the young ladies, what you gonna start doing when you have kids and the body is not
Not the same.
as well?
That's correct. That's a
20 years
fact.
old. Like,
That's a
what's
fact.
your exit strategy? What's your end game? And I just gotta say, I'm really, really impressed with the way that you were able to
Thank you.
articulate.
Appreciate that.
Just take my hat on, take my attitude, and it's been a pleasure to listen to you.
Appreciate it. I'm glad you came. Appreciate it.
awesome.
Yeah, you must have read the book already. I talk about exit strategy in there. You're right on point. You're on top of it. Good. That's excellent.
It's interesting that you said something about transparency. I'm gonna be transparent today, and it's kind of came to me right now. When Ronnie called me and asked me to do this, I screamed and I'm like, what? Because I'm an introvert. I'm shy. I don't prefer to do these types of things. So it's outside of my comfort zone. But I did it anyway because fear is, we talk about distractions, but fear will keep you from doing the next thing. It will keep you from achieving that goal as well. So I as I tell my kids, I had to live by example. Do it while your knees are shaking. Do it while your knees are shaking. Do it anyway. And once you do it, you'll get over it and you'll keep moving forward. So that's my transparency for you all. I hope y'all can, I don't know if y'all seen it tonight,
You would have never known.
well, thank you. Thank you. But thank you, I appreciate it.
That's a good point though, because I didn't realize that with Crystal. But I ask her two things. One, I respect her enough to give a shot. And she was afraid of that because it's not a comfort zone, but she tried it. That's again, that rising up, that makes somebody better than what they were, right? Meaning that, okay, these fears that I have, I challenge those fears. I know them. But because she respected me enough, she's willing to do it. And throughout there. And now she's like, you get, like you said, you can't even tell. So back to your question, young lady, about being a leader, sometimes stuff like that, someone asks you, don't be afraid to take it. And don't be afraid to be assertive about their try it. And don't be afraid to fail. Don't go and think about failure, but don't be afraid. If it happens, it's okay. Learn from it. Bounce back.
But the same thing happened with him with the eulogy. It goes back to what was in the book. So, that is, I guess, another quality of being a leader, being thrust into a situation and taking it on and doing the best you can and just keep moving.
You got to be preparation.
Yeah, and like you said, I respect him enough. He's able to pull that piece of me out and say, okay, we're going to do this anyway. Go ahead, Crystal. So, yeah. Any other comments, questions?
Books need to be signed.
Books that need to be signed.
One book in place.
Again, they're available online. Online Press Bookstore.
I brought my own.
Joby.
All right.
But before we end, I want to thank all of you for coming. I really do. It means a lot to me. Taking time out of your busy schedule on a Saturday. You could have been anywhere else but here, but you came, so I appreciate all of you for bringing your families out and your children out. Friends, but I want to acknowledge my brother and his wife. They drove 3 hours. 4 hours. Oh my goodness. And my lovely niece in the back, and I trust her beau, my dad would call it, which is fantastic, like a nice couple. Drove 3 hours.
2.5.
2.5 hours. From Atlanta, come up, so give my hands up. And that's an example of when you have that sort of respect and that love and that network of people to take time out and drive that far, and for you all to come. Lee, I just told Lee yesterday, he was here with his family, so, and then to have that, John, just told John, I tell him, he brought all of his kids, and I'm proud of that. So Katie, everybody, Mark, all of you. We get my boys here, Vincent and Tyrone back there. They came and hang out, so I appreciate that. And Dennis always in my corner. And last but not least, we got my man over here, Mr. Brown. That is Crystal's husband. He's always been there. Very busy man during the week and weekends, but for them too, to stop, to pause. And I got the schedule to do this, and they made it happen for me. So they could be doing something different, but all come together for one. And that's what makes it work. So, and my daughter finally made it, and my grandson back there. You got your uncle here. So thank you all for coming, and please share the information. I'm proud of the fact that you all want to get the book or have the book, and tell everybody about it. If you like it, share it. And give me your reviews, good, bad, otherwise. I can take it. Because I can't get any better if I don't. If you lie to me all day, I just can't get any better. I don't mind the lying now and then, just kidding. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
If anybody want to hang around and talk, I got a few minutes, but we're going to go down to Wild Wings. Anybody want to join us?